Why every time you try to animate an impact during a combat, a hit reaction, your animation always look like is lacking physicality and impact? Everybody, this is Alessandro. Today tutorial I want to talk exactly about this. Many times I still see this issue where animator, they do something like this, right? They do like a punch or something, and the reaction constantly lacking basically physicality, right? And I can guarantee you guys, sometimes I still see this one in even in professional video games. If in fact, actually, I would say that very few company, I would say like maybe Naughty Dog, Santa Monica, and few other more, manage to do physicality really well during combat or stuff like that. A lot of other people, including students, but sometimes even professional, they struggle as well. And I used to struggle as well doing those, and I want to share some of the knowledge behind all this. So normally when I was studying animation, my thought process was about this one, right? So you can have the anticipation before the punch or something. And then I think about, okay, there's going to be a moment where the fist needs to physically touch the belly of the other opponent, right? So I need to do exactly the first frame where the fist touch the body, and then a couple of frames later, I do the push, right? And then maybe kind of bounce back. This is mistake number one. I'm going to show you in a second why, but this one is killing, first of all, the physicality of your attack. Second, very important when you do an attack, besides the fact that maybe you need to push a little bit more this pose, is the hit reaction. If there is no contrast in the poses, in the hit reaction, your hit will look like weightless and not impactful at all. And in fact, you can see right now how the spine, for example, the line of action of the spine looks almost very similar. Even though the character is going behind, because of the force of the punch and everything, it's still lacking the kind of powerful and snappy impact. Now, if I take a look at this other example, it's a lot better, right? So what it makes this one much better than the other one? Let's analyze frame by frame. So first of all, what I did, we did the same things where we have the anticipation here, but then what's happening is that in one frame, in just one frame, you are snapping from this position to this one. So you should never be afraid to do this kind of big change in just one frame, because this is what is gonna give the energy to your fist, right? You notice how even the spine here, there is a lot of contrast going from the spine open up like this to this one where it's completely twisting the other way around. We have the contrast of having the elbow pointing in this direction, right, kind of bending like here, and then a straight line hitting it here, right? So this is just happening in one frame, and then you have like an overshoot right after. As well, I also push a lot more these poses, because why not, guys? Anytime you have an opportunity to make your poses more impactful and more interesting, why lose this opportunity? Always try to push the poses as much as you can. When it comes to this character, I think another thing is really important. Take advantage of the hit happening in one frame and see how it goes. In one frame, the geometry here of the body goes from this position here. Look at the gap. Look at the gap that it's just happening in one frame, right? This is what gives energy. This is what gives impact, all right? Look also the other things, how the spine went from this kind of straight line here to a more bend spine, kind of absorbing the weight. This is happening obviously because the punch is hitting like this, and then the drag of the spine is creating the C shape, right? Then obviously kind of relax a little bit, but you can feel that the impact is a lot more. So just to remember, when you do a hit, don't do the frame in the middle like I did here, right? Don't do this one, okay? This frame needs to be cut, and it needs to go to the other pose right the frame after. In one frame, you just need to go from one pose to another. Let's take a look at this other bad example, right? In this case, is a swing, right? It's a punch that go from left to right. And normally what I see other people do is that there is a bit of delay on the reaction, and again, the body is not moving really that much. So it looks like actually it's hitting the air, right? So sure, we have the hit reaction here from the character. It's not that great, we can discuss about this, but also look like that there is not really physical impact. It doesn't look very powerful and it doesn't look very strong. Same issue here, by the way. You see how we hit it here, right? We did the same, we replicate the same issue that we had before. We are hitting it here, the head moves very little, and then after I hit, the head moves a lot, and then the rest of the body. But again, there is not really any impact here. We cannot really feel the physicality because of this. Now, if I take a look at this example, guys, you can see that the impact is a lot more powerful. In fact, if you pay attention very carefully, it depends on the play blast here, you can see for a moment just the head bending, because of the punch, and then carry on the rest of the weight, right? Let's analyze this one frame by frame one more time. Okay, so again, one more time here, we have this frame here where we have this gap between here, right, the anticipation, right? The next frame, as you can see, I'm pushing this frame a lot more, right? You can see how the head and the neck is being neck, basically it's breaking his neck here, right? And then it continues for another 2 to 3 frame to keep the contact with the punch, right? And obviously the body now is being carried. You see the line of action of the spine, how it follow, it change, right? Because of the inertia, because of the force of this punch, right? And then of course, very important, we continue while this punch now is kind of recovering, right? It's doing this kind of a circle. The character continue to get back here and then kind of start to recover. This part is not really important for this tutorial, but I wanted to show you how to make the impact more effective. Again, here we push a little bit some of these poses a little bit better. Again, guys, this tutorial today is not so much about the poses, the polish of the poses, just to share the input about this mechanic, all right? And of course, you can see it's a lot more exaggerated when the entire body leans towards the right compared to the previous one where it's barely moving, right? You can see really the difference here, look like it's really hitting the air. Now I have another example here that I want to highlight, another mistakes that I see very, very clearly. And in this case is when a character is trying to parry an attack, all right? So normally, again, what I used to do is like in this case, the guy is using this arm here to protect himself, right? And what I used to do is like, okay, the guy is parrying, right? So the kick here is gonna kind of stop here, maybe kind of bounce a very tiny bit, right? Because it just parry, it block it, right? Again, the issue here is when you execute something like this, it look like a lack of physicality because again, you're having the hit right here in the middle, right? And there is basically no reaction from this body because you're thinking, okay, it's parry, it's in control and everything, so it shouldn't be reacting too much, right? Again, the principle here, I think it's in theory is kind of correct, but we are doing animation here. We want to exaggerate. We are selling an illusion, the illusion of movement, right? And so we want to do our best to push those illusions, to make them more believable and push and make things more interesting, right? So here, for example, another of the things I did is when the character is parrying here, you see, guys, how it feels more impactful. It's still parry, but look how the arms bend from this angle here, right, to here, to kind of absorb a little bit more, and look how the wrist even have bent it a little bit in the other direction, all right? Notice how the spine, right, and the head, maybe sometimes I tend to over-exaggerate a little bit, but you can see now, you can feel that it's getting hit, right? You can still block it and everything, maybe you can do a little bit less if you want, but you can see now even the shoulder, how the shoulder is going up, right, how the neck is compressing a little bit, and this is helping you to sell a lot more the idea of physicality, impact, and better, strong connection. Another things you want to keep in mind when it comes to contrast is not just about a classic line of action here, back and forth. You can use it this sideways, okay? In this case, I only did one poses here, but as you can see, again, I'm applying the same principle. The gap between the previous stance and the next one, and I pushed it a little bit more on the side because I wanted to twist this one. I didn't want to do this time do a front kick. I want to push more on the side. And if you're pushing more on the side, look how the, see, look how the rotation of the torso here, right, compared to this one. All right, and of course we talk about it, the entire body has been pushed back and everything. Again, poses could be refined, could be a lot better. I'm just sharing with you the principle. All right, another small example I did, this is just for fun, I really went over the top to exaggerate something like this, right? I remember when I was doing an animation like this and I felt like, you know what, this character is jumping like this with a punch, right? And it's gonna strike like this, like how it's gonna look like. It's gonna just bend the character behind, right? Bending the spine like this, okay? I was trying to make it kind of realistic and thinking about logically how to make something like this very, very impactful. And I was struggling because these poses was very exaggerated, the attack was very powerful, but the hit reaction was kind of weird. I couldn't find a good poses and everything to make it look very appealing. So the suggestion I can give you here, try to go over the top. Don't think about the realistic reaction. Think about over the top. And this example, for example, I did, and I took example from anime, where he's completely knocking down the character and the entire head is smashing on the ground, is basically upside down, the legs are up in the air, right? And you don't have to worry about to make proper transition, because if you execute it properly and apply the previous rule that we discussed before, the moment of a hit will happen in a frame and you can cheat. When you do this quick transition with very strong and powerful exaggeration, you can do a lot of transition very quickly. You can get away with a lot of tricks as long as what's coming after, so the way these things will settle and bounce, will work very well. Okay, you will take care of that. So this is something I'm showing you this one because I want to encourage you to open up your mind and don't always try to think in terms of realistic how the body should work. Yes, you want to keep these things in consideration, but here I was imagining something very, very powerful, right? You know, when you see One Punch Man and stuff like this, where the fist is super powerful, like a huge iron ball dropping basically on his body, and it will gonna be flip upside down like this, okay? What I want to encourage you is to think outside of the box. This is animation, guys. You have to push things, have fun, and be creative. Okay, guys? I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time. Ciao!